All right, so normally I'd pass up a 23 channel radio, but this one had sideband, lower sideband, upper sideband, and a knob that fell off here somewhere. I gotta go find that thing, it's loose. I'll show you how to fix loose knobs also while we're at it. So the plan is to clean this thing up, you know, for $5 this day. It's hard to come by some of these sideband radios. So at first pass, we're gonna get a bit of good clean, connect it to the test set and see if it's still working or not. Maybe try and hop in the air and talk to somebody. I don't know. I don't spend a lot of time on sideband below 36, and this one only goes up to 23. So a lot of AM talkers on that lower end, but you never know. I might be able to get a buddy to drop down to 23 or 20 and just make a contact with me. We'll see. And then a stretch goal for this, budget permitting, is to see if there's one of those little these little modules, like little LCD screens and kind of like an Arduino, that plugs into the IF for it and replaces your LDO, I think it's called. But you're basically your frequency selector, and your PLL, your phase lock loop, it sort of man in the middle attacks that and replaces this with something more digital. And you might even be able to make this an encoder. I can't remember, it depends on how it's wired up inside. It might be discrete. This might end up being like left and right versus the channels themselves. So we'll take a look at once we get in there. Now if that thing's like, you know, $200, I'll probably pass on it, but I don't remember what they cost, so we'll take a look. But again, step one, let's get this thing up and running and cleaned up and see if it gets on the air. All right, let's see if we can let the smoke out of this thing. I have the power supply set to like 13.8 volts. Not that it matters. I think somewhere between that and 14.4 is gonna be pretty good. The terminals back here, quite oxidized, but we'll see. All right, no sparkage. I've got the current limited, set low, so if we turn this on and it does nothing or clicks at us, then we'll know something's up. And I think we'll be on AM to start with. Let's go. Well, that lit up nicely. Turn the grate. Switch this over to monitor so we don't blow up our test equipment here. 27025 for channel 6, and keying up. Ooh, we got a nice carrier, 3 watts, but no audio. Why am I not getting audio? Fine tuning, it's probably from the receive. So no audio. Should I can't get this thing to modulate. I can tell it's not kicking out. This would be dancing around. You guys can't see it there, but yeah, take a look at that. Test. Testing 1. Nope. So when I key up, you see this solid bar here. That's our carrier. That's the amount of audio that's there. It's nothing. If there was if the microphone was working, this would be jumping around with the modulation, amplitude, the modulation of my voice here, but I get nothing. Power supply seems okay. It's pulling 1.5 watts. I'm gonna go and fiddle with this. Maybe take this guy apart and see if the microphone's just stuck. Glad to see that needle's working. It receives. That's good. It transmits at least a carrier. That's also good. It's like once you have receive and some kind of a transmit, many chunks of the circuitry in here are working, and it might just be that the microphone is stuck. So we'll take a look at that, and then we'll pop it if that doesn't fix it immediately. We'll pop it open and see. I might just pop it open for a good dusting. I know you guys want to look at it inside, so let's do that. Some people are probably watching some of the how-tos that I've got on this channel and wondering Why does he hold it awkward like that? I try to consider where the camera is. So normally I'd want to just reef up on this thing and go, but then you're just watching me, you know, screw my own hand. And that's, you didn't come here for that. So sometimes I hold things awkwardly so as you guys can get a good gander at it. Put your peepers on it, as it were. Wow, that microphone's massive. Jesus. I mean, I'm used to those tiny little itsy bitsy. I mean, microphones the size of the head of the screw is what I'm used to in modern stuff. That's actually more likely to get stuck. Let's keep digging at it. It's nice to see this thing is still intact. Sometimes they're made out of paper, and they're not. This one was made out of plastic, which is good. All that spittle from the 70s in here. Speaking of that, let me try and wipe some of that out. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to like physically actuate it, see if I can break it loose. It might have just been stuck from sitting in the same spot for all those years. We can try and work it. There's no access on the back to squirt a bit of deoxit in there. This might need to be replaced completely. We'll see. And the fact that it moves, and even though it's not working, and then it moves, I should still be able to get some kind of modulation out of the thing if we plug it in and we turn it on and we key it up. Yeah. A little bit. Yeah, I can see some movement on the oscope. Not a ton, but some. Let's try and inject some audio. So we might have a bum microphone. I'm going to keep playing around with it and see if I can, or maybe solder in another microphone of a similar ohmic value and see how that does. Else we might be dealing with like a microphone amplifier circuit inside that is giving up the ghost. So we'll go poking and prodding, and we'll be back. Good God. Whew. Smells like 1976 in here. Let me go stare at this. Let me go see if I can find the schematic for this thing. Briefly, as promised, let me show you how to fix this knob that keeps sticking. We've got it on AM, USB, but it keeps sliding off. Just get it right where we want it, right there. A little too loose. Well, all you got to do is get in here and spread this thing apart. Just a wee bit. Alternatively, you can also put a piece of paper there to take up the space. I've done that too. There we go. That's on there nice and snug now.
Why is it not doing like that?
Oh, on the oscope? Because we're just using the PA. We're not transmitting anything. So test. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, that's working.
Yeah, it's kind of working.
All right, so it's our microphone, I think.
Does it do it to like other people like me, Mama, Ellie? Does it do it to those?
No, it's not going to those people. It's just going here in the room.
Okay.
So to take up some of the thickness of the microphone that was previously in there, I've cut a chunk off of a Nerf ball. And it's time to reassemble here. Testing 1, 2. Test, test, test. Hello, hello. There's probably a line level that goes out to the speaker. I've never done a PA system for a car, so it's my first, but it's just loud enough for us to talk on it today. Test, test, test. 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, good enough for the girls I go out with. Let's move on. All right, boys and girls, it's the next day. And I looked up the, I think it's called a DDS VFO. It's like a VFO replacement. We talked about that earlier in the video. They're going for like $100+ when they're available. And that's just like the kit sent to you. And what I forgot is that a lot of the ones that they're replacing have an S unit meter or a VU kind of looking meter over here. on one side of the radio, and then the other side has like the seven segment display, little 2-digit thing to go from channel 1 to 40, where this one has our old school channel selector. And so that window is what the 7-segment display is, what it's meant to replace for a nice clean look. It's makes sense. You're adding more pixels, if you will. You're adding more information to the same little tiny square of real estate. Where here that we don't have that, so I'd have to replace this thing with it, and I think that detracts from it. Or I'd have to build like a separate little box, 3D print something, and then drill some holes in this thing, and it's not going to be as clean of an install as I'd like. So now it's just time to check for some basic power output. I don't have a complete schematic. There's one, but it's like low res that I was able to find, and so it's difficult to make out all of the labeling and the words and try and trace out and figure out what does what. And so I'm not going to do like an amazing alignment on this thing. We're just going to be checking for power out and decent receive, and maybe some modulation somewhere around 80%, and I think we're going to call it good, move it on, rehome it, that kind of a thing. So let's see what we can find. Here we go. That's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, negative 118, you can still hear it in there. Squelch set to completely open, so pretty decent. Audio, there we go. All right, let's see, it's about 5 watts, a little over 4. This one 4.9, 4.5. This thing, woo, kind of agreeing with that. Let's see. All right, we'll use its own speaker to inject some audio. Here we go. That's pretty good. 76, 78. Good enough for government work. Let's see. Turn that thing off. Speaker works. Doesn't sound amazing, but it works. Transmit, receive. Lower sideband, upper sideband seem to work. Yeah, let's go and see if we can connect this thing to an antenna and pick up some skip midday here. So I first turned this thing on, and I was getting no audio out, and I was like, oh my goodness, did I forget to plug in the speaker? No, it's one of the ones that you have to plug in the hand mic, else it won't give you any receive. And then there's some edge cases. You guys might find a deal on a radio. You want to go for a 40 channel, skip over these 23s. They're just kind of nostalgic, good for parts, or put some in your kids' Power Wheels or some dune buggies or something like that that are on the property. If you get it for near free from a thrift store or a yard sale, because they're just really limited. This is awesome that this one comes with sideband, but only the 23 channels is pretty limiting. But they're worth messing around with and tinkering. So pleased that we got this one back in business. So anyways, if you're online and you see one that says no audio or no receive, it would look a lot like this. That the needle will be moving. Not that they're going to show you that in the eBay listing or what have you, but some of the ones that have no receive, it's just a switch inside the hand mic that's not seating in the right place. This thing wants to really make sure that you've switched from transmit to receive, and so it has some lockouts in the push to talk button, and you might find yourself a really simple fix. Go in there and clean up those contacts, or heck, just replace the mic. A lot of things are kind of grody and have people like spittle all over it for decades. So get you a new microphone that's compatible, and you're off to the races. So yeah, let's see what this thing sounds like. The audio out of the little paper diaphragm speaker that's in there leaves something to be desired for sure. So if I plug in an external speaker, it should get a lot better. Let's
wouldn't cut top of everybody, but not by much. King too big, you about the only one I can figure out. Whoever that is trying to key on you, his audio
It's old Prime Minister there. For a second I thought, oh no, maybe the speaker's garbage, but you can tell the difference between someone that's talking garbage and someone that sounds nice and clean. See, Prime Minister's occupying the bandwidth that's allotted for him here on channel 6, and it sounds really nice. So It's got a lot to do with the operator. Then you got folks out here that are putting out so much power, and it's dirty power too, because they don't gain anything by bleeding over. They're bleeding over onto channel 5 and channel and 7. So it's wasted energy. It's like pissing into the wind, or shouting at clouds here. If you're over here on 5, you might actually you'll hear that and it'll sound intelligible. You'll be able to make out the voices, what the guy's saying. When you try and talk back to him, he can't hear you because he's listening on 6, right? It's pretty common. Yeah, what you want to get is people that are playing nice and making the best use of their wattage. That is. So this guy might be real nice and close to us too, or at least we're in his skip pattern. All right, you guys get the idea. It was really nice to save this thing from the thrift store and make sure that it gets put back into use. It's all cleaned up now. Knobs are working. Potentiometers are all cleaned out from get a little spray of some deoxit. Tuned at least. It didn't need much tuning, if any. I don't think it needed any on the receive side. Transmit side, it was a little off frequency, and it's still a bit off frequency, and I couldn't walk it in without doing a full capacitor replacement. But for a 23 radio, not quite worth it for me to go do that kind of legwork on it. 40 channel with sideband, you bet, man. I'd have sat here and done full rip and replace for all of the capacitors that are in here and upgraded those and got it dialed in dead nuts on. This thing's a couple hundred cycles off, and which is almost nothing in the wide world of CBAM. On sideband, it'll start to matter a little bit more. Your voice will sound a little like you're one of the TIE fighters or something in Star Wars.
All wings report in.
Red 10 standing by.
Red 7 standing by.
Red 3 standing by. Red 6 standing by.
Passing through the magnetic field.
Hold tight.
Switch your deflectors on double front.
Which is where they get that sound from. There was enough guys in the production that knew what long distance HF radios sounded like. It has a unique sound to it, a very compressed audio sound. So that's what they're trying to replicate there. But you can see, if you're talking to a prime minister, it's pretty awesome. Like he's nice and tight here, and he's not going to notice that if you're just a little bit off or left, to the sides with this thing. So it'd be great on AM. Sideband, it would need a little bit better tuning, but it was a blast to get it going and see it working. So if you guys like seeing more random projects like this one, make sure that you guys subscribe and stay tuned for a future episode of Julian's Random Projects.
Oh, black man ain't got changing clothes. Girl got drunk, closed that door. Poor black man ain't got change clothes.